On this glorious late winter morning that hints already of spring, it feels oddly out of place to reflect on the coronavirus, now known as COVID-19. But I understand that the possibility of this pandemic is weighing heavily on most, if not all, of our hearts and minds, and so I make it the subject of my sermon today. I do so in part because there are deep theological issues brought forward by the arrival of this virus. And I do so because I've been struck by how very little commentary there's been in the cascade of information coming our way about the spiritual implications of widespread illness. As important as it is to undertake the preparations recommended by public health officials, stocking up on groceries and medications, upping our hand-washing game, and monitoring our own health, I believe it is just as important to prepare spiritually for the many ways the coronavirus may upend our lives in the coming weeks and months. It's hard on some level to appreciate that we have only known about this virus for 10 weeks. What seemed to be an outbreak of pneumonia in Wuhan on New Year's Eve is now a global health emergency affecting countries around the world. You often hear me say that what touches the life of one of us affects us all, for better and at times worse. This moment reminds us that for all of the great achievements of our species, we are not set apart from the web of life, but are a part of the web with all of its complicated entanglements. What was a mere germ in an animal market half the world away just a few weeks ago has now spread itself around the planet with the help of humans and our airplanes and ships. To this point, all of the cases identified in Toronto can be traced to individuals who have traveled to viral hotspots elsewhere and to the people who have been in closest contact with them. The risk of transmission in Toronto is very low at present, but that is likely to change if cases of local transmission are found in our city. That moment, if and when it arrives, will be a defining one, for it will be a measure of our humanity and a test of our principles and values, a moment when we will need to resist the urge to panic and instead move through the reality that is before us with every bit of grace and goodwill that we can summon. This is not to say that we won't feel fear. Already there are things about the impact of this virus that are rightly worrying. Some of us are feeling understandably vulnerable as we wonder about our own ability or the ability of someone we love to make it through this. This is especially true for our elders and those with compromised immune systems. Each week in our covenant, we state that we seek to serve life. Every one of us is likely to be called to make that promise real in the weeks and months ahead as we pull together to help slow the spread of this virus. To the degree to which we are able to slow down the spread, we will protect our healthcare system from being suddenly overwhelmed and allow its resources to be prioritized for the care of those who most need it. This means that regular and vigorous hand washing becomes nothing less than a spiritual practice. That isolating ourselves, if we have even the slightest hint of illness, becomes an act of great compassion for the wider community. And it means that if we are blessed with good health, we bear a responsibility to look after the welfare of those around us. All of this is love in action. All of this is service to life itself. So let me reiterate what I've just said. Do everything you can to foster good health and hygiene for yourself and others. Eat well, take your vitamins, and get enough sleep. And wash your hands as though someone's life depends on it, because it just may. If you're not feeling 100% healthy, stay home. Don't go to school or to work, and don't come here to activities at first. If not working presents a financial hardship, please let me or Reverend Lynn know, as we can offer some assistance through the minister's discretionary fund. If you at any point feel any symptoms that might point to COVID-19, immediately call your doctor or healthcare center for directions about what to do next. and reach out to me or Lynn, as well as those around you in our congregation and in the wider circle of your life. In moments like this, we truly need one another. Though we are likely to be encouraged or required to practice social distancing, holding ourselves at a physical distance from others or isolating ourselves at home to the extent possible, this is a time for us to also build up our ties with others in different ways. Reach out to strengthen your relationships with those around you. Widen the boundaries of your community. Knock on your neighbor's door now, today, and make sure you know how to call on each other if there is a need later. If you're concerned about someone, reach out. Showing up unannounced and in person like Pooh and Piglet is probably ill-advised, but check in on the people in your life to find out how they are and learn whether there's anything they need. If you can help fill a need, do. In simpler times and smaller places, much of this behavior comes naturally. But for us in this megalopolis, we need to revive some ancient human ways of being, ways of tending the well-being of the community. In this era that so celebrates the individual and chases after self-help cures for whatever ails us, we need to return to the work of building up enduring community. The research of sociologist Michael Unger, Professor at Dalhousie, points to the fact that there is indeed strength in numbers. He says, "We have been giving people the wrong message. Resilience is not a do-it-yourself endeavor. Self-help fails because the stresses that put our lives in jeopardy in the first place remain in the world around us even after we have taken the cures. The fact is that people who can find the resources they require for success in their environments are far more likely to succeed than individuals with positive thoughts and the latest power poses." What kind of resources, he asks? The kind that get you through the inevitable crises that life throws our way. A bank of sick days, some savings, or an extended family who can take you in. Neighbors or a congregation willing to bring over a casserole, shovel your driveway, or help care for your children while you are doing whatever you need to do to get through the moment. Communities with police, social workers, home care workers, fire departments, ambulances, and food banks. His research on resilience shows that our inner resources are rarely of much use in the long run unless we have a nurturing environment around us to help sustain and support us. If you have such a system in place already, lean into it. And if your system is not as robust as it could be or should be, there is no time like the present to start shoring it up. As we in leadership for the congregation seek to prepare for the possibility of an outbreak of the coronavirus in Toronto, we will be seeking ways to help strengthen the ties that bind us together, even if and especially if it becomes necessary to shift many or all of our activities online for a time. But part of this work that each of you can be helping with now is to reach out and to here in other parts of your lives and strengthen the fabric of community. I realize on some level that this may seem at odds with the possibility of social distancing and the need for us to limit our in-person interactions with others. I think, though, that if we are creative, we can do both. At the heart of this is our ability to know in our bones that we truly need one another. While we may segregate ourselves physically, there is no need to isolate ourselves from the connection of community. I felt this to be even more true after reading about the extremes that some people, especially those with great wealth, are going to try to protect themselves from chartering private flights, planes flown empty, and securing yachts that can sail far away from anything that might trouble them. That impulse to protect ourselves is human, and it can be seen in less extravagant forms as people hoard face masks and stockpile more than their fair share of resources. Admittedly, there is a fine line between stocking up and stockpiling. When Bob came home last night with yet another large bag of rice, we had a little family meeting to reflect on which side of the line we were. I think the deciding factors in all of this are fear and whether we understand ourselves as part of the wider web of life. A few years ago, I heard a friend of mine tell the powerful story of her grandmother's ethical dilemma following the attacks on 9/11. The grandmother who lived in Manhattan was a woman of means, and so she set herself to the task of buying a top-of-the-line gas mask for herself. And then she thought that she should buy one for her daughter and her daughter's husband and their kids, and then one for the housekeeper as well. And the more she thought about it, she kept adding names to the list until she reached a point when she decided not to buy any masks at all, until she came to understand that her destiny was tied up with everyone she loved and with everyone else. The Buddhist teacher Bo Lossoff says that the challenge of being alive is to accept and to know in our bones that anything that can happen to a human being may happen to me. Anything that may happen to a human being may happen to me. This can be such an incredibly difficult thing for us even to acknowledge, let alone embrace. And it can be such an easy thing for us to forget. That is, until we are shaken awake by the end of a relationship we didn't see coming, or a diagnosis we weren't the least bit prepared for, or the news of a sudden loss that just doesn't make any sense. It's easy to forget until we truly know that not every aspect of life can be controlled. It's easy to forget until we are reminded anew that to live is to be vulnerable, and that to be vulnerable means that we live with fear as a sure and steady companion. The challenge is to make peace with the presence of fear in our lives, to make peace with the knowledge that being human means being acquainted with vulnerability and with risk. This moment that we are facing now offers us yet another opportunity to attempt this, to come to terms with fear and vulnerability. The Australian poet and cartoonist Michael Leunig writes that in this world, there are only two feelings, love and fear. There are only two languages, love and fear. There are only two activities, love and fear. There are only two motives, two procedures, two frameworks, two results, love and fear, love and fear. The question he seemingly suggests is which one we will serve. Which one guides our actions most of the time? Which one, in the end, will give ultimate shape to our lives? I wonder, though, what would happen if we could more readily see that what we and others fear is very often deeply tied to what we love. For we fear because something vital is at stake, something precious, something of great value, be it our life, our livelihood, the safety of our family, or the well-being of our community. Love can very often be found on the flip side of fear. So it's not so much a choice between the two, but of coming to know them as of a piece, as two parts of life's whole, two parts of a whole life. My hope for all of us in the days ahead is that we will lean into love just as much as we can. So much of what I'm trying to say can be summed up in the story of Andy Sue and his wife Wing Yi, who own and operate the Flower Center over on Kingston Road in the Upper Beaches. The flower shop has been in his family since 1972. In late January, a woman came through the door demanding to know where Andy and Ying were from. They're from Toronto. But this woman wanted to know if they had ties to China. She wanted to know if they or their family had traveled to Wuhan. They said no, but it didn't matter. The woman spouted off her racist thoughts about the coronavirus and then left the store. Wing and Andy were left shaken by the experience. After they shared their story with a reporter and the news spread on social media, Many people reached out to offer their reassurance that this behavior was not okay. They were touched by this outpouring. But David Brown, the owner of a nearby burger joint, felt compelled to do something more. He decided to post on Facebook that he would give a free hamburger the following Sunday to anyone who came in with a receipt showing that they had made a purchase at the Flower Center that week. David hoped to drum up a bit of business for his neighbor and show his support. In the end, he gave away over 800 hamburgers. The Flower Center sold out of every single flower they had. Friends, come what may we live into our best selves. May we lean into love even when we feel fearful. May we take care of ourselves that we may be able to take care of others. From the struggles we may face, may we fashion a world, in the words of Langston Hughes, where love will bless the earth and peace its paths adorn. May it be so.